I'm George Fiske. I was born and raised in Ventnor City, New Jersey. I served in World War II with the 100th Infantry Division in France in the winter of 1944. I was 21. One day, I went out with a group of soldiers, maybe 30 of us. We were on a hill over a little town, above a little town in France, and right in front of a church. And we milled around there for a while, and then we moved out through the woods toward the next town. I was sent back with a message to headquarters, and I moved back to in front of that church again, where I met two other soldiers who had just come up the hill. I was talking to them and telling them to come back with me to the battalion headquarters when the first shell came in. They must have missed seeing us, or they weren't ready to fire at us when there were a bunch of us, when there was a bunch of us up there. But now with just three of us there, they fired 88 millimeters shells. The trees, it was a little country road, dirt road, and there were trees on all sides. We were in a forest. And the tree branches went over the road. So the shells were coming in directly on us, but they hit tree branches above us. This is what we call a tree burst. And the shrapnel went all around in all directions. We fell to the ground when we heard the first shell come in, and we waited because the shells kept coming at a uniform pace, which meant it was one gun firing at us as fast as they could reload it. So after the third or fourth one, after the second one maybe, I figured I wasn't in the best spot on that road. And I looked over and saw a shallow ditch on the side of the road. And after the shell burst, I jumped up and swung around facing the gun itself and landed in that ditch thinking I was better protected there. I was wrong. The next shell that came in, I was hit in the legs by shell fragments. Fortunately, I was faced the other way, so they didn't hit my body, they hit my legs. One shell went through my boot on my right leg and scratched my leg. The other, that was a piece of the shell. The other fragment went through the calf of my left leg. That's a hole about the size of a quarter. The shells stopped fire coming in after 6 of them. And I called over to the other two men and said, "Are you all right?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I've been hit." So we moved into the trees where we couldn't be seen from that position where the gun was. And we bandaged up my leg. We always carried a little first aid kit, you know. Then we started down. One of the soldiers said, "George, we'll get out and get a Jeep and bring it up here." I said, "No, Bill, we don't want a Jeep up here. That'll just attract more attention. I'm going down with you guys." So I stood up and put an arm over each shoulder, and we started hobbling down. And as soon as we did that, 6 more shells came in. So we finally got down to below the crest of the hill, where we couldn't be seen from that other position where the gun was, and we could continue on down. But it was slow going with my hobbling, and one fellow, rather big husky fellow, said, "George, I'm going to carry him." So he threw me over his shoulder in what we would call a fireman's carry, and he carried me down that hill. Now, I'd like to stop and say this for a minute. That fella, after the war, went to a college, and and then to a law school. He became a lawyer, and then later in his life served on the board and on the Supreme Court of the state of New York. That's the kind of fellows we had in our outfit. Excuse me. So they carried me down the foot of the hill, put me in a Jeep which was down there, drove over a short distance to the CP, and I waited there for several hours till an ambulance could take me to a hospital in the city of Nancy. The hospital had been there for years. It had been used by the French people and then by the Germans and now by us. We